I'm going to start recording. Okay. So today we're talking about trainee tracking. We're not talking about financial tracking. We're talking about just tracking your trainees in the program. And actually, I mean, it's tracking everything that needs to be tracked as far as the training grant. So tracking your faculty, tracking your program activities. Exactly how you do that is everyone has a different, a different way of doing it or not doing it, I should say. So I just wanted to review what we talked about at the last office hours. I know I canceled the last couple too because I was so busy with that last September 25th deadline. But we had a really interesting discussion with Jen Bork from Postdoc Scholar Affairs, and she just kind of did a whole overview on postdocs, and it seems like everybody can seem to benefit from that. And I talked a lot about the what was it, the additional employment that they have. So anyway, that is that PowerPoint's on the website under resources, and the recording should be there too, so if you want to listen to it. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about, like I said, there's 4 areas of trainee tracking that come with a training grant. So this is good for a training, for this presentation, I say is really good for a coordinator that's managing a training grant or a PI. I find that there's, when I solicit information to PIs, not a lot of them are super organized as far as how many trainees have they had and where they're at now. Some are, but keeping it in some sort of spreadsheet is helpful. So I'm grateful for like whatever I can get when I ask people for information. But as far as doing a renewal application or an RPPR, it's just really important to keep all this data. So the 4 basic areas are applicants, not just those that are entered into your program, or entrants as they call them in table 6A, 6B. So it's anyone that's actually applied for your program. And so grad data, the good thing about pre-docs, I should say, grad data, the GEPA, Graduate Education Department, they actually collect this data because it's an application process, right, to get into grad school. Unfortunately, there is no application process per se with postdocs. Usually a postdoc is will just email, I see Dr. Mellon's on the call, they'll just email Dr. Mellon, hey, I want to come work in your lab, here's my CV, right? Am I right? And then how are but for the training grant, you need to keep track of all those CVs that you get, you receive, right? And that's considered an applicant. I mean, it's an inquiry into your program. So I'll show you what I use for that, and to try to track them. But that one's a tricky one, very tricky. Participating faculty, I always recommend tracking your participating faculty throughout the life of the grant, of the award. Whether they're coming or going. If you have new participating faculty coming on, then you definitely need to report them at the RPPR stage. And then I'll talk about current and past trainees, and then program activities. So the importance of it, and if I haven't already stressed that enough already, but it's really important to maintain these records, because when trainees leave your training program, you have to keep track of them for 15 years. And I don't know about you, but like I can barely keep track of my friends for the next, there's certain friends, yeah, for 15 years, but some of them are like just fall off the face of the earth. And the same thing happens with trainees. So you really have to try to stay in touch with them as much as possible and figure out some sort of system to getting annual data from them. One thing that if trainee tracking does is when someone like me emails you and says, I need to know about your trainees for renewal I'm doing or something, there's not this huge like flurry of, oh my gosh, you could just email them back and say, hey, how about this, the spreadsheet that I keep for all my trainees, how does that look? So when I say trainee tracking, could be applied to the average lab with no training grants, or this, any PI I think on campus should be tracking their trainees. So it's not just, it's help, we need this information for the training grant, but there's also just, it's good for any PI, that they are consistently keeping in touch and knowing where their trainees are at. And like I said, this is information that's crucial for your RPPR and your renewals. Your renewals really look at the progress of your trainees, especially in Table 8, the program outcomes. They want to know, did your trainees go into research? Did they stay in research? Are they in industry? Are they in academia? Did they receive grants? So some of these things develop over years, right? So, they could be out of your program for 5 years and they have an assistant professor position, then they go to associate. And so then they go to full professor, and tracking all the grants they receive. So that is, it's very important for the renewal, for sure. So applicants, and I put in here postdocs since it's mostly postdocs, because like I said, table 6A, which is your pre-docs, all that data that you need, pretty much all that data that you need for data table 6 is collected by grad division when the pre-doc applies for grad school, which is great, right? So usually that's not a problem to get that data, like GPA data, all those types of things. So that's good, right? However, for postdocs, like I was saying, there's no formal application process. So there's different things you can do here, like every time, and I'm going to pick on poor Dr. Mellon today, but every time, say, Dr. Mellon received an email like that, she could say, forward it to her assistant and say, hey, can you write down the vital statistics based on their CV, or you could send them a form and like a Google form and say to that trainee, whoever's sending you the CV, if you're willing to send me the CV, I'll consider you to be in my lab if you fill out this Google form. And then that Google form that I created collects all that data table 6. So then you can start, keeping that data. So anyway, everybody's different. There's no wrong way or right way to do it. I guess a wrong way would just be not collecting anything, but just, there's no standard consistent way. Every program I've realized is different on campus.
So Jill, this is Pam. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the problem isn't the applicants that apply to me.
They what?
The problem is not the applicants that apply to me. The problem is the applicants that apply to the mentors on the training grant.
Exactly. Well, that's.
I have no access to that. I can ask for it. I never get it. So I don't know what to do about that. I mean, people who apply to me, yes, I can track them.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I have, umpteen mentors on the training grant, and to track all the postdocs that apply, all the people who apply as postdocs to them is virtually impossible.
And that's why I said, any PI on campus could use this. I mean, it's applicable for anybody.
But how do you get the other faculty to do it?
That's exactly it. How do you get them to adopt it? Holly is raising her hand. Do you have a solution for that, Holly?
Well, I have opinions. I don't know that my opinions constitute a solution, but I think they should constitute a solution. I mean, it's really important for all faculty to know, and they don't seem to know how important this is, and for it to be an expectation of employment. I mean, the review process happens every 3 years. If providing the information of, the applicants you've had and all that were part of the review process, that would go a long way toward ensuring that. And I recognize, having worked in reviews for quite some time, that the review process is already very burdensome. But we talk a lot about how to save this information. Jill said there's no right or wrong way. I have seen wrong ways of saving this information. So I think the best way to solve the problem, is to continue to work towards urging, convincing the university and UC as a whole towards making that a standard of being faculty at the UCs.
Yeah, sometimes when a PI sends me something and they're like, I have no idea how many people I've mentored, I'll just say, hey, send me a copy of your biobib. And then at least it shows everyone that they've trained on there. And then I'll have to go in and figure out, but at least it's something, right? I'm happy to have little nuggets of anything I can get to make my life easier. But yeah, if there's no simple solutions, unfortunately. Sasha, you had your hand raised?
Yeah. Hi. First of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Sasha Kaufman. I'm a colleague of Pam's, professor in her department, and now the co-director on that training grant with Pam. So over the years, I'll probably have questions for you as she hands the baton to me. So I'm a newbie at this. But so I had two just questions or clarifications. The first is, when you say anyone who applies to the training grants.
Oh, sorry. Oh, what happened? Asked to, oh wait, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so when you say someone tracking people who apply to the training grant, do they have to apply? I mean, this is going to be semantics. Officially to the training grant, or can they just be interested in my lab, for example? Because if they are eligible, I would consider them for the training grant anyway. And let's be honest, most postdocs, 99%, don't know what a training grant is. They're just trying to get a postdoc position.
Totally get it.
For example, I interviewed someone a couple of weeks ago. She doesn't know about the training grant, but if I were to take her, then it would go to the training grant council to decide if she's eligible. Is her application to me enough to include her as a training grant applicant, or does she have to?
So that's a great question. So there's a lot of, I've noticed with dealing with NIH for the last 20 years, there's a lot of gray areas as far as some things. And if you read the instructions, it'll say applicants that applied to the program. So you could say that that's your program. It's not just the training program.
Right.
But the thing what I had this conversation, I think, with Jen Bork before, like, because of the UAW laws and everything with postdocs, and all the postdoc positions have to be posted on a website or whatever. Well, that's great, but I still don't, we still don't have access to that data. And so I put together, a research interest form. So are they interested? Is that considered an application? And I went with Dr. Mellon's colleague. Oh, you know him, Mark Lawson.
Yeah, sure.
So Mark contacted someone at NIGMS years ago, and we said, is a research interest form, is that considered an application? Can we say that? Because I can't put out there that this is an application because of the UAW, but I could say it's a research interest form. And they said, yes, we could consider a research interest form as an application. So, but then getting them to fill it out, right? It's almost like, you need like something on your signature line. Hey, if you're applying, to this, if you want to apply to my lab, I need you to fill out this research interest form.
For the data table 6, what exactly, I mean, I don't have that in front of me, nor do I remember, but what even does NIH want in that date? Is just a name of the applicant and the date, or, because if we have an email inquiry to us from an applicant with their CV saying, I'm very interested in working in your lab, is that email inquiry and the email discussion enough to then include them in the table? Or does it have to be something more official? Because I've never had an official form for an postdoc applicant.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an official form, that's for sure. Because I'll tell you, I mean, data is so.
So it doesn't even have the names of the applicants then.
No. So it's just basically they want to know, like, what degrees do they have, and then they want to know like how many applied per year, and then by their eligibility versus. Eligibility means, if they're a citizen or permanent resident, that means they're eligible. If they're non-citizens, they could be part of the total applicant pool, but they're
Right.
not part of the applicants that are eligible.
But they want more. Keep going. This is what they want. This is what's hard to come by. You have to track exactly how many publications they had, and which ones were first author and what university they came from, and whether they're
That's after they're
underrepresented.
in your training program, not at the level of application, though. We're switching.
Yeah,
No,
but
no,
at the
applicant
application
pool.
time, they need to know, you need to know how many publications they have and how many first authors.
So then you would
This
have
is
to have
the
that information to count them as an applicant. You'd have to have a CV or something.
As
Yeah,
long as you have a CV.
But you have to track it, and you have to get it from the other mentors. The mentors don't send me applicants that apply to their labs.
So I was just going to contribute that nobody gets appointed to the training grant without you knowing it, right, Pam?
No,
I mean, all the
but
applicants.
this is applicants, not appointees.
So I make them send me a CV and a informational form as part of, if they are going to tell somebody no without getting that, I would never see it. But in general, if they want that person to be considered, they have to send me a CV in this form that has the demographics on it.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction. So what I have been doing is only reporting the postdocs that are nominated by their mentors to my training grant. I have not been reporting all the applicants they get that they don't nominate.
Yeah.
So therefore, I have no difference between total applicant pool and applicants eligible for support, because every once in a while, maybe I might have one that isn't eligible, that a mentor doesn't understand the rules and sends me somebody that's not eligible. But for the most part, they don't send it to me unless they're nominating them for the T32, and 99% of them know that means they have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident. So the only ones that I put in the total applicant pool that are not eligible support are ones that apply to me that I would have considered maybe. So it makes the applicant pool look much smaller if you don't include all the people who apply just out of the blue to all of your mentors.
So don't you think that it looks better if the bigger your pool is, right? So
yeah,
I mean,
except if a lot of them are not eligible, that doesn't look great.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. So Dr. LaCour, did you have more questions? Because I know you had your hand up earlier.
Well, I'll take that down. I just think the way out of this is to make the faculty send a CV in this form. If they tell someone who contacts them, you're not eligible, I'm not going to deal with you. It happens a lot, especially with foreign applicants, because they're not eligible. Then you don't capture those. But at least, and the other thing to keep in mind is it's hard to recruit postdocs these days. It's a well-known thing that recruiting highly qualified postdocs, especially URM postdocs, are highly sought after by everybody. And you really have to shake the trees for these people these days. So we don't get a lot of applicants for postdocs. I'm out there, I don't have a huge program either. I only have 5 postdocs in a funding cycle right now. And I would be loath to increase it, given it's a well-known thing at NIH right now that postdocs are in short supply. A lot of people are going to industry and stuff like that. But I think just having a process and making all the faculty on your training grant follow it is the way to go.
I mean, I think definitely as a director, you could say, I would recommend you, using this, but again, you have to get their buy-in, and it's,
Well, when you send the announcement out and you're recruiting, you can say, you know, here's the application, here's what we require. Please find some applicants and get this information from them and send them in. So.
Hi, this is
Carla,
Carla.
Carla?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak up because our group created like a link to then a form for applicants to fill out. And it includes the total number of publications, first author publications, and it also asks for a CV. And then, it's like that. And everyone of the faculty, if they are given a PDF, a CV via email from somebody, direct them to that link. Just keep directing them to that link. And then that information is collected, and it's so much easier because then you've got it all.
So yeah, this is what I created on Google, just a simple Google one, but there's
exactly. Postdoc interest form. That's exactly what we have for our R25 and our T32.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the same, and it just basically asks all the questions that you need,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
table information. So I mean,
it's been very helpful for us.
Yeah, it's not super scientific and high tech, but it gets the job done,
Exactly. Ours is, simple Simon, but it definitely helps, and it's helped, collecting all that important information year after year.
Holly.
Yeah, so I was just going to comment, NIGMS is often deliberately incredibly vague in how they, they refuse for the most part to define any of the terms in any of the data tables. So I have differing programs that have T32s that I'm working with, and they have different philosophies. And while I can see the value in making decisions about how you're telling your story when you start a proposal, I have one program who maximizes, they collect as much information about and hunt down information about applicants. They've just started a general research interest form because they firmly believe that their program strength lies in its ability to attract a broad range of postdocs, whether they're qualified for the training grant or not. And they believe that the training grant is integral to their program. So they even collect the ones who pull postdocs out of residency. They collect all of the residency applications, which make absolutely ridiculous numbers, but they've got the data from the residency applicant pool. They just work really hard in collecting the data from other applications. And it's challenging. And I think it's more challenging, like I said, because we don't have a policy at the university that faculty are required to collect this information for their labs, or, I think that would be a great help. You could still tell the story you want to tell, but you could have access to full information if that were the way we worked.
Yeah. Anyway, so just to introduce Holly really quick, she's from the Department of Medicine. I think I consider you my counterpart in medicine. I'm health sciences RSC, she's medicine, but she has to deal with the medicine training grants, which is not so fun. Anyway, continuing, but I just kind of listed things here, the things that you should be tracking, like their application date, or maybe you interview them. If they are accepted into the program, their citizenship, which is crucial, right? Whether they are eligible to be on the grant. Their degrees, if they are accepted into the program, you're going to want to know their prior institution, of course, any publications, first author publications. Really, this is more for the prior teaching. They want to know for the pre-docs, they want to know how many mean months of prior research experience do they have. And that's one thing that they don't include on the grad applications. I thought they were starting to do that, but I haven't really seen it. So that is something that, it's nice to collect on the side if you can. Of course, race, ethnicity, if there's any prior NRSA support. I've seen it happen many times where people, they want to go hire someone, they found a great candidate, and then they realize, oh, wait, they've already received too much NRSA support and they're not going to be eligible. So that's one thing you want to, ask in your application. Or when you're screening them. So I wanted to talk about underrepresented groups. And so this is always important for your renewals. NIH wants to always create more diversity in the biomedical workforce. And so I'm trying to think, the data tables changed like maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe it was 2020. They changed it. It used to be on the data table, it was split out between the number of applicants or entrants that had a disability, and then they had a URM status. And now it's all rolled up into one underrepresented group. And so that the NSF has 3 criteria that would put you into this group, whether you have the racial or ethnic group, if you have a disability, or you have a disadvantaged background. And I wanted to go through these because I don't think like it's widely used, and maybe it is, I don't know, but a lot of people, I think our numbers could be higher with disadvantaged backgrounds alone, because I don't think people are considering that part of their underrepresented group. So I think a lot of these are the categories of, if you have the racial or ethnic background, this puts you in an underrepresented group. So I wanted to make a point. I was working on I worked on many training grants, and I've had PIs who say, or admin will say, oh, well, yeah, that person has, a last name, and it sounds like they are, of a certain ethnicity. Let's count them as a, underrepresented group. And I've seen this happen a lot. And people, they literally are racially profiling. So I put a picture in here of these 2 kids. Are, if you can, I don't know if you can figure out, but these kids are not just white kids, as I like to say. This is my niece and nephew, and they are a quarter Hispanic, so they are considered underrepresented minority. So I think it's important as a group, as a coordinator. I just want to caution you, not to racially profile your trainees. Yes, we're not supposed to ask, but it's important to, if you did ask, they would disclose it. But I think it's just really, really important. And I've seen this happen many times where a PI or someone will say, oh, well, yeah, that person has that last name. They are considered a URM. I'm like, that's not the way I think you should run a program. So. But anyway,
but you can't ask. So since you can't ask, how do you ask someone if they have a disadvantaged background?
But they can voluntarily tell you.
But they don't know to tell you that. You'll never find out.
Holly.
You can ask. You can't make them tell you, but you can ask in that form.
You can if it's what I have found, yes, to be most effective is for the information, the interest form, to include an explanation of what the information is and the definitions, along with a reassurance that that's not part of the application. It's on a separate page. It's demographic information. And my experience so far is that we haven't gotten the information when, for example, a disabled physician does not consider himself disabled because his disability is not affecting his ability to practice. And so he doesn't provide that information. And that's really unfortunate because that information is incredibly helpful to us and to the NIH's view of our program. If we can say, yes, look, we attract all these people. So if it's included in the interest form and separated by a page, which helps psychologically for people who don't want to be associated with a disability or a disadvantage, then you can explain more fully we really need this demographic information. It will not be part of your application package. It's going over here. We're collecting your other information over here. It would help our program if you're able to fill this out.
So the one thing I wanted to distinguish also is this is a research interest form for the postdocs. This is not a formal application. So we can technically ask it. They don't have to, and I put in there in that form, like I define everything. So it's very clear, to the applicant. And again, you could always do you don't have to report, but of course we appreciate it if you do, right? So disabilities, I actually had to look up the definition. Physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. So for example, I have a hearing issue, and I should be wearing a hearing aid, and I don't because I'm lazy. But I was always wondering, would that be considered a disability? Can I check that box? But you have to look at the impairment. Does it affect major life activities like taking care of myself, breathing, walking, talking, hearing? I think it's a little bit of an inconvenience to say, what did you say? Can you repeat yourself? Turn up the volume. Is that a major impairment? I would say probably not. Wearing glasses, right? Is that a major impairment or disability? No, probably not. But if you're probably legally blind, right, it would be. So I think this is also something to look at. And if that's something that you, and what I'm saying is why I'm giving you these definitions, and this is something that, especially when we get to the disadvantaged one, I think it's important that we always try to increase our diversity numbers, but I think our numbers could be higher based on some of these definitions. So, so this is what I was alluding to. And individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds defined as who meet two or more of the following criteria. So this is from an NOT. I can let's see. Oh, I don't have it up here. Yeah, this is the NOT. This is from back in 2019 on diversity. So this is where I'm getting the information from. But it says, so you have to meet two of the following criteria. Were or currently homeless. You were in the foster care system. You are eligible for the free and reduced lunch program for 2 or more years. Your legal guardians or parents had never gotten their bachelor's degree, which I think that would be quite a few people. Were or currently eligible for Pell Grants, or you received WIC. So also they go by area, which I thought this was really super interesting. So I actually looked this up. So the U.S. rural area as designated, and you can put in your address, and it'll tell you whether you live in a rural area or not, or a qualifying zip code. So I live in Vista, so I put in Vista, and that qualified as a zip code. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So, and my parents never graduated with a bachelor's degree. So then now so I guess I could be considered a disadvantaged background because I live in a qualifying zip code and my parents didn't have a bachelor's degree. So I don't know, people might disagree with that, but but that's according to the rules. So I thought this was really interesting. If you go out to this website, I hope you guys can see my screen, and you can actually look in here based on your address or let's see. So yeah, you can put in an address. Let's put in 95 Hemming Gilman Drive, and we'll see what that comes up with. And then here is a list of zip codes. There's a whole PDF on just all the zip codes, but everyone's gonna know my address. Oh, that's the wrong zip code. So it'll say whether you're in that zip code or not. But anyway, I just think it's really interesting. It's fascinating that there's the criteria, like I said, has changed a little bit since 2019. So, and I just don't think we're screening enough of our trainees. If they're I think there's a lot more trainees that can be fit into this box than we think. So, so moving on, my second area that I like to push people to track is participating faculty. It's really important to know, and I'll give you an example. Like I was doing a renewal recently, and we have a lot of participating faculty on there that their ranks had changed. And I have received a lot of bio sketches, and the PIs had never updated their bio sketch. They went from assistant to associate, and so I was getting, and then if you look in blank, which can be, you know, hit or miss whether it's correct or not. Usually UCSD profiles is more correct, but tracking all your participating faculty and their ranks, I think, is really important, and their departments, and whether they're still in your training grant. You know, we have faculty that leave the university, and so maybe they're no longer going to be participating in your grant. So it's just information that really is helpful when you do come up for a renewal, that you already have this information. You should be reporting any faculty new additions to your grant at the time of your RPPR. I don't think it's mandatory to say, oh, if someone left, but you know, and then when you're doing that renewal, you're going to probably be adding new faculty anyway. But it's good to, like, you know, just have this list on hand. And in the spreadsheet that I created, I just have a tab for like applicants, participating faculty, the trainees, and then the clearly associated. And then, like I said, this directly affects our table 3, which is overlapping faculty on the campus. So some of your, you know, there's a lot of PIs out there that are on several different training grants. So there's overlap between many different training grants on the campus. So trainees, current and past, a lot of this is your applicant data as well. But just keeping this in a spreadsheet somewhere, like a permanent email address. I can't tell you how important it is just to get right out of the gate, just get a Gmail or Yahoo account from them, especially when they're going to do X-Train. And because otherwise, once they leave the university, if they sign up with X-Train with their UCSD address, and then they leave and they don't do their termination paperwork, you have no way of getting a hold of them. So that's one thing I usually do right off the bat, make sure I have a permanent email address. Knowing who their faculty mentors are, knowing their research interest, whether they were a pre-doc or postdoc on your grant, maybe you have both, all their degrees that they received while they were in training. For like a postdoc, are they even degree seeking? A lot of postdocs are not necessarily degree seeking. So there's just so many like things you could just track, you know, everything for these trainees. Every time they go to the bathroom, you could probably put it in the spreadsheet. But you know, when did they come into the program? So one thing that in topic of research, one thing that have come up a lot is the initial position after leaving UCSD. So I've had some people, when they fill out their RPPRs, if the trainee is in training, they'll put that their current or their initial position is that they're a grad student, you know, in biomedical sciences. I'm like, that's not correct. Like, it's initial position after leaving the UCSD program. And then it would say in the table, oh, this person's in training. They have not left the program yet. So there will be empty spaces on your data table, but it's okay because the person's in training. But I see this happen a lot. People will put, you know, for whatever reason, they'll put whatever their current position is. Their current position is, if they left your program and then where they left it, say 5 years ago, they went to go work for Illumina, and that was their initial position, and now they've switched to, you know, another pharmaceutical, or they went back to academia or something like that. So this is why, like, you could collect data every single year, right? And people change positions all the time, and this data changes all the time. So knowing, you have to know where their current employment is. And then they take it a bit further. They want to know the workforce sector now, whether they're profit, nonprofit, academia, they're in industry, that kind of thing. And then they also want to know is what's the principal activity? Do they stay 100% in research? Are they primarily teaching? Are they primary clinical? Are they doing something research related? Maybe they're writing policy for some company. Or, you know, say if they graduate and then they go to medical school and then they're doing further training, they're doing a residency program or something. So, and of course, there's unrelated to research, which hopefully all of your trainees are going into research somehow. But there's always one of those trainees when you're doing a renewal or an RPPR that just kind of falls off the map. And so, and you try to do Google searches on them and stalk them, and like, it's like they just, you know, they move to Ecuador or something. I don't know. I'm not picking on Ecuador, but they just move away and then you never hear from them. Subsequent
So
grant.
Jill, I just want to suggest here that LinkedIn is very useful for this.
Yep. So I actually will make a reference to that. So LinkedIn is great. I also recommend to the program directors, if you can create like a LinkedIn page, maybe for your training grant, and then your trainees could join LinkedIn and then they can like your page or something. Or I know like biomedical sciences, or maybe it's neurosciences grad program. I know they used to do this. They'd have their grad students sign up for LinkedIn and then they would like the neurosciences grad program. And then that way, whoever the coordinator is, they can track them on LinkedIn better. But, you know, it's just another thing, right? They have to update it. I mean, I created a LinkedIn account and I never update mine. So, but yeah, but LinkedIn to me is an amazing resource for this. They also show on LinkedIn sometimes that they've received fellowships or awards. So that's helpful. A lot of times, you know, if they receive NIH awards, you could go out to not PubMed, NIH Reporter, and you can look them up that way because NIH are the most common. But there's a lot of awards that, you know, that aren't listed out there.
But when you go into the extract, if they've gotten a fellowship or a grant, does it automatically show?
It will show up. It depends on well, obviously if it's NIH, it'll show up. If they say go and work on somebody's R01 and they are listed as key personnel on an RPPR, it will show up. But you also have to go in there and tick the box. It'll be listed, but you have to make sure you click the box so it's added into the RTD.
Right, and you're only allowed to add 5, so you have to unclick another box if they've had 5.
Yeah, and so you know, it obviously it depends on the person. You know, sometimes if they have more than 5, then you know, make sure that you're clicking probably the better ones, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, you should be tracking other things for the trainees, not just, you know, those type of statistics, but any type of coursework they're taking. They're supposed to be taking ethics training. They should be having an IDP completed, not that you need a copy of it, but just knowing that they have an IDP, and they discuss that with their mentor. Again, here what Dr. Mullen was talking about, social media can be a great resource, looking on LinkedIn or, you know, Twitter, Facebook, just, you know, figuring out where they're at now. But it takes time to stalk people. Program activities is the 4th area that I think you need to track information, and this is really relevant for your renewals and your RPPRs, is talking about all the different things your program has done over, you know, the last year or the last 5 years, where your trainees have presented posters, where they've traveled, any types of career development, any courses that they've taken. I know our postdoc office with Jen, they offer a lot of career development stuff, grant writing courses, stuff like that. So this is just a quick snapshot, a picture of the spreadsheet that I was talking about. This is on my website, and like I said, I have 4 tabs, and this is just this kind of stuff that you should be tracking. This is completely up to you. If you want to change this up and you want to track, you don't want to track something, fine, whatever you want to do. But this is just a sample of what works, what has worked for me in the past. And what it may or may not work for you. This is the research interest form I brought up earlier, and these are on Google Forms. I can add you as a collaborator, then you can copy it and tweak it and make your own, whatever you want to do. So just reach out to me. I just have to do that. But this would, anything, all the questions in here, and you could add questions, would fulfill the table 6B data. When you do the annual RPPRs, you have to put the progress of your current trainees in the progress report. So sending out something like this, once a year to your trainees, I have a form for that too. And then table 8 information. This is something that if you had that permanent email address and people leave, as they leave, you could be sending this to them every year. And, maybe they won't take the time to fill it out, but you could just say, hey, just let me know if your current position's changed or whatever. I've heard hit and miss. People have some good luck with sending out, emails like this and surveys. You're lucky to get a 50% return rate, maybe 60%. So it just depends. I had one professor that used to send out holiday cards, Christmas cards, and then they would write in there, and so where are you working now? And then the person would write back, I'm working at the Salk Institute, and this is that's how they track their trainees. Like I said, everybody's slightly different. So
it could be helpful as far as that piece of information is concerned to ask like their percent of each of the categories. Like, are you working primarily in research, or academic, and just have a added question asking for the weight of that part of their job.
Yeah. So this is on the website, the resources I'll have. I think somebody asked, I think Sasha asked about, yes, the recording and the slides are on the website. All the prior ones are on the website. And we do have a YouTube channel, or I should say that it's for the RC. So you can click on that and see any of the previous ones. Yeah, so I can show you the website. So I wanted to talk about coming up office hours. I am going to start data table training, and I know there's some people on the call that are going to be submitting for 525 next year or 125. So this would be really great for you. And I'm going to go through it very slowly, just like one or two tables a week. So it's going to be over a period of time. I'm not going to cram all that information down your throat at one time. So it's going to be kind of spread out. I am going to be out of the country for the October 19th and 26th and November 2nd. But next week, I'm just going to start talking about the overview process of how do you get yourself organized when you're doing a new application or renewal application. I was just talking to someone yesterday, and they're trying to start a brand new application, and they thought they could submit next month. I said no. No way, not with a new program. I said, but we looked at it closer, and they can submit next May. I said, this is perfect. That you can get started. And I put everything in there. I give you the spreadsheets and how you get yourself organized, how to track your all the data that you're soliciting from your mentors, kind of give you tips and tricks how to dig for all the data, because obviously you can see like it's hard to find some of this data. So I'll be doing that. This is just kind of the upcoming schedule, and I do have this on the website in a Google Calendar. So if you want this to be added to your Google Calendar, just let me know. Just send me an email, and I can, or actually you could do right here. It says add to Google Calendar. So there you go. And then it'll come up. On the website under trainees, there's the trainee tracking. And I do have the spreadsheet. I have today's PowerPoint already on here. And then here's the spreadsheet for, there we go. You have your tracking your applicants, your participating faculty, your training tracking, and then you're clearly associated. So one thing we didn't really talk about the clearly associated much today, but if it would be considered a trainee, basically, if you're going to be tracking someone that's clearly associated with your program, it's the same. You're going to be reporting on them, so you might as well, you could just track them as a trainee. But this way you can distinguish between those that are actually appointed to your grant versus those that are clearly associated with the grant. So, any questions? Comments? Snide comments? No?
I'll make a snide comment.
Good. Thank you.
We can't, do as much active tracking as we would like. But I will tell you that I try to stay in touch with all of my graduated pre-docs and postdocs, and that helps enormously too. We just don't have support, to, query people. So I do agree LinkedIn is really great at the time of reapplication to update the whereabouts of people you've lost track of and things like that. And I use it all the time, even just to do my biobib, because you put those tables in your biobib. Your biobib's a great resource.
It is a great resource. Yeah. I because I'll have it where some people I ask them for mentor records, and they have no idea how to fill out that table. So I'll just say, hey, or they're super busy or whatever. I'll just say, send me your biobib and I can figure it out. And then what I've also been doing is when I'm done submitting the grant, I'll send those tables to the PI, so they have them for the next, the next time somebody else asks for another submission. So that,
Let me ask another question of the T32 directors on the call. Do you think there's a sort of right number of mentors to list on the training grant when the vast majority of the people you list there will never have a trainee in that funding cycle and they're not doing anything? I mean, it really just shows the richness of your environment and that sort of thing. And I wonder what the advice is of my colleagues on that.
So I'm not an NIGMS, I'm in NICHD, but I know GMS has different standards. But I have 3 trainees on my grant per year, and I have 12 mentors. So I think the ratio really matters. You want to have plenty, but not too many. And you don't really want people on there who would never have a trainee, in the next 10 or 15 years. You want people who actively have postdocs or whatever you're supporting, even if they're foreign, but they might get one that isn't foreign or has a green card and might nominate them. You want a good ratio, and you also want a breadth, but relevance to your topic.
Okay, good advice.
Andrea,
I know you know all that though.
Well,
you asked.
I did I looked at the statistics one time. I think the average is 33 mentors per trainee grant, but I've seen it up to 150.
I'd like to go smaller this time, so that's where I was heading with this. And I think another topic, Pam, sometime it would be great to hear is, how do you pitch in a renewal? Like, how do you pitch the succession plan? And how do you structure the leadership plan of the training grant when you yourself want to pass the baton to people that aren't yet ready to be the program director, but will be during the course of the next funding period?
I just did that. I just renewed for year 41. And you see Sasha Kaufman?
Yes.
He and Irene Sue. I don't know if you know Irene Sue.
Oh, I do.
Yes, the 2 of them. So in the past, it was always me and a clinical guy, Jeff Chang, for years. Before that, Sam Yen and me. So we had a basic and a clinical. And so I added 2 co-directors, one basic, one clinical. And before the next renewal is due, I am gonna, drop out.
And the co-director idea, like, in your experience, can they go in then as co-directors as at the stage as in terms of being program directors when they renew? Can you have
I
2
think
people?
they can.
Okay.
Yeah, they could be multi-PI, but
Okay.
I think we'll probably choose one and have the other remain the co-director.
Okay.
And I hate to do this to you, Sasha, but I think you're the one who's likely to write the thing. And so you would be director and Irene would be co-director. That's sort of where I'm looking, but we still have 4 years till then, or 3 years till then. But I really talked them up, and I include them in all the decisions now, and they will have been co-directors for 5 years by the time or 4 years by the time that they submit to replace me. So I think, if you want to read some of that language, I'm happy to send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. This succession plan, because I don't mind, being at the lead to give it a good chance of renewal. I don't think it would succeed without that, but I definitely want to position it to live beyond,
That's what I did this last time. I went ahead and did it. And
Okay.
even though I'm RTAD, so
Okay.
I'm only 43% time, I wrote the thing and we got it.
You went in as program director in RTAD phase. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't show on your BioBib. They don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
cool.
I did say that Jeff Chang was fully retired, and that was why we were now he's not on it at all now. So that's why we were having this succession plan, and over the next 5 years that I was going to train Sasha and Irene and all that stuff.
Well, that's great.
It worked fine. They were happy. I don't know if they'll be happy next time, but it worked.
Okay, great.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess I'm happy to hear you are submitting the renewal, Andrea, because
because the junior faculty want to do it. I'm going to do it. But I think the next big thing is we've got to get some support out of this university, and it can't just be Dr. LaCroix's discretionary funds or the institutional support for this training grant, so so that'll be the next big thing to figure out. And I know we went around about that the other day. So
yeah, and that is something that I think I've had this uphill battle with campus for a long time, and they listen to faculty. They don't listen to staff.
Who else is going in this year? In 2024? Besides me?
I'd have to look and see. I thought I already know a couple people. I'd have to look.
Well, let me know, but thanks. Yeah. I really am being guided by the enthusiasm of the junior faculty, and they're not that junior, they're mid-career, but I'm
happy I'm glad to hear
somebody has to love doing this to do it. It takes a lot of work. The labor of love.
Do you have to love doing it, or do you have to feel obliged?
Oh, I like to, I do love doing it. But it's a lot of work, and
not a lot of recognition, that's for sure.
It's really necessary, and to support our degree programs at the doctoral level. And I think I think we need to emphasize to the health sciences chancellor that the quality of our research is greatly enhanced by being able to support highly qualified pre and postdocs. Without them, we're not doing as beautiful work as we could be.
You sold me.
As much. Yeah.
Anyway, it's 1 o'clock, so it's top of the hour.
Okay. Thank you, Jill.
But thank you guys for joining. Hope to see you for data tables if that's applicable to you. But I'm happy.
Yeah, as long as we can go like that the whole time.
I won't take it personally. Okay.
Okay, they're really pretty horrible, and I'm not even sure anybody looks at them. So
I do, and I'm a
I think I was
reviewer.
gonna ask Chat GPT to do mine next time. So
I was thinking the same thing. It's so funny you were saying that. Can I do?
Yeah,
why can't I do Chat
exactly.
GPT?
Exactly.
Anyway.
All right, see you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jill.
Jill.